Guys, deluded, I'm back again. Yeah, man. Obviously, I'm an Arsenal fan, but I talk about damn right every young player of every club that I can get my hands on. So I'm back to speak about our Spud friends down the lane. Come on, Spurs fans, I gotta get you. But yeah, they always said, of even though I do think people, I don't want to say it's overrated. I do think people overstate Pochettino's record with youth players because I don't really see them. I mean, if you're gonna name them, it's gonna be the same old list of players, Winks, etc. Of course, it's difficult to bring through young players. Every top six club struggles at that, to be honest with you. But Spurs is still a place where there's some great young players. I mean, yeah, if you've been watching them at youth level, you've seen what they're on. There's a good crop of players. Some too young to mention, and under 15 and under 16 level and them things. But there's a good bunch of players at Spurs, and there's still a pathway. But let's speak about a couple of them. That not I wouldn't say I want to be very careful on the language I use. I wouldn't say they need to show something because they're still very young in their footballing careers. They can still have top careers at any level, at any club or whatever. But in terms of top six or whatever, you know that it's almost an impossible job to break into the first team pre-season. You can't really judge it because you're playing sides more 9 times out of 10 that are not at your level, and the ones that are nobody's fully fit. You kind of need to show something in it. So let's start with Cameron Carter-Vickers. Now, US recently got his full cap for America, I believe. Forgive me if I'm wrong. In fact, he has it. Not recently. He's been done that. I'm sure he's been done that. But yeah, I want to say highly rated at Spurs. Spurs fans know more than me in that regard. But why I say this is because you don't give a 20-year-old, he recently turned 20, you don't give him a new deal until 2021 if you don't believe in him. You don't use language like Pochettino's used in that he can be one of the best players in England, defenders in England. You don't use language like that if you don't somewhat have an admiration for his talent. So yeah, obviously for him, regardless of how the praise he's received, and obviously he's been on a steep learning curve. He's been on loan at Ipswich Town and Sheffield United. I do remember a game against, was it Fulham? He had a disaster against Fulham for Sheffield United. In fact, he had a couple of them. And one probably error I see in his game that he needs to improve is concentration, because in this directly concentration at set pieces, it is easy for such a big and strong lad. Why do you get caught flat-footed and the last one to jump for a header? It's a bit like Eric Dyer in that if you're an intelligent striker and you time your run from a set piece, you can score against this man. But other than that, he's decent with the ball at his feet. He's strong in attack when he's a decent defender. Obviously, on the basis of the mistakes he's made and obviously the disaster class, it's difficult for young players because you've got to give. He's only 20. He's still trying to get consistency in his game. It's a bit of an impossible job because if you were to look at 10 games, what you want is consistency. You want a decent level of performance. But within them 10 games, most youngsters, I always say this, they'll have games where they're amazing and unstoppable, games where they're poor and anonymous. It's about knowing that they're going to do that to you and reacting to that. And until top six clubs on a general basis do that, we can't produce young players like Germany, in the sense that you look at their 18, 19, 20-year-olds, they've compared to their age mates in England, them and they have made 100 plus appearances or just above or just below that for their club sides. So yeah, obviously the competition aspect, because let's just take Manchester City, another club with great young players. They've just won the title, and if they beat Liverpool, they could have possibly been in a World Cup. How can it be in a World Cup final? In a Champions League final. They obviously want to become more competitive in the Champions League. And obviously they've run away with the league. They need to replicate that to win honours again. Would they be prepared to then relinquish that and take main players out the side and put in 5 or 6 that can have scope for development, Foden, etc., knowing that you're not going to be more competitive, knowing that you're going to be slightly behind? Obviously you hope that they take it by storm, but these are things that you have to be fully comprehensible, because you can't just I do think football fans are unpleasable. We call for young players, but you need to. Are you willing to give up being competitive or aspiring to win stuff, being and at the expense of being somewhat as a farm? You wouldn't. You wouldn't. Now, if you're a young winger at City, I mean, you've seen Sterling and Sane. Even if you're Sterling and Sane, you've seen Mahrez come in. So it's almost impossible if you're Bayram Diaz, if you get what I'm saying. So yeah. What makes Cameron Carter-Vickers' thing a bit harder is that he's got 3 quality centre-halves ahead of him at this current moment in time. Now, we don't know. It does look like Toby Alderweireld might leave the club on the basis of reports, but he's still at Tottenham. He's still employed by the club. And he weren't at his best last year, but it's still Toby Alderweireld. So there's him. Davison Sanchez, criminally underrated in my opinion. He put in a great World Cup and it's not even spoken about. A lot of rough edges around him, but he's going to be a quality centre-half, as I say every time. Vertonghen's obviously quality as well. So that's 3 of the best centre-halves, in my opinion, in the Premier League already in front of you in the head and in the pecking order. And also you've got to consider, if God forbid, if any of them 3 got injured or suffered a serious injury or something, there's also Eric Dyer. Now, I don't necessarily think much of Eric Dyer anymore at centre-half, but if you're Pochettino, you'd probably consider putting Dyer, before you put Cameron Carter-Vickers, forgive me if I'm wrong, in terms of experience. And there's also Forsyth. He hasn't played that much. There's scope for him to go out on loan, but he's rated quite highly by Pochettino. And if we look at the basis that he's typically on the bench and you went out on loan, he could claim to be ahead of you in the pecking order. So that's about 5 players I've said for all his talent. Yes, Spurs have played 3 at the back at times, but if we just look at it at a blanket statement, only 2 centre-halves can play at a time. So there's a lot for him to consider. I do believe it's a thing where he needs to show something in the next 18 months, 2 years, in the sense that he shows that he can play in the Premier League and things like that. Because if you look at it, Vertonghen's getting on a bit. Toby's obviously looking like he might be sold. Dyer's not really convincing in any position he plays at. Sanchez is very young with scope to develop. So there's possibilities of Cameron Carter-Vickers and maybe Sanchez together in the future at a partnership, or with Forsyth in a free or whatever in it. These are things you've got to consider. So maybe he probably will go. I mean, I'd like him to stay in amongst the squad and get in the side. I like all young players to do that, but there is scope, realistically speaking, after what I've just said, logically, to send him out on loan where you're going to guarantee play games at a decent level. So yeah, that's Cameron Carter-Vickers. Then obviously you've got there's a couple players getting a look in pre-season. I don't know where Sam Stroller is. I can't say his name, but he's a very tidy player. Obviously they've got Skip. Obviously they've got Griffins and these man there. Oakley, Booth, Edwards. I don't think Edwards has gone on the plane as well. But yeah, then you've got Onomah. Another one who, at 21 years of age, again, he doesn't need to be the finished article as a footballer, but in terms of a Spurs career, you find yourself in a bit of a pickle in the sense that you're too young to really be in the under-23s and stuff like that. You might not be fully there where you're in the first team, but if you're outstanding first team player, first name in the team sheet, you're at the club in that you're on pre-season and stuff, but you're either there's a possibility of you being permanently sold, which I don't believe would be the case, or heading out on loan. Now, allegedly, he's injured. That's probably why he hasn't gone to America, but I personally believe on top of that injury, it's because he could be loaned out as well. He went on loan at Villa. He didn't set the world alight, but he definitely didn't do poorly. Probably not the loan spell that he was probably hoping for, in the sense that Pochettino had to not ignore him, sort of thing. But I mean, they were on the verge of qualification to the Premier League and played in the playoff final. So he's bound to have learned a lot and developed as a player. Personally, I think he needs to define what midfield role he wants to be. He's got the physical attributes to do quite a few. He's very good with a ball at his feet. He's not the quickest, but he does have okay pace range. So maybe he could be box to box. I'm not sure. He's probably have him as down as a more creative midfielder of sorts, so he needs to define himself. But if you look at their midfield talents, you're going to get some great midfielders. He probably looks at Dele Alli as an immediate inspiration. There's some tough people you're going against as a creative player. There's even rumours he could return either on temp loan or a permanent basis to back to Aston Villa as part of the move that could bring Jack Grealish to the club. So obviously there's a lot for him to be said. If we look at his application, 34 appearances, 4 goals, 4 assists. It's not enough in terms of goals and assists for a creative player. I wasn't watching him week in, week out, so it could have even been a better loan spell that the stats don't suggest. So forgive me. But yeah, as much as I like Onomah, he's got a lot to consider at this current stage in his career. Then you've got young Edwards, Marcus Edwards. Such is the hype. People forget the man's 19, turning 20 next year. He's a winger. People talk about his attitude and all of these things. I mean, for obvious reasons, I want to stay away from that. It's a very tired subject. Obviously, his loan spell at Norwich wasn't meant to be, and didn't have the best of time there. But he's still a talented player. But he needs to somewhat show it now. It's gone past potential. He kind of needs to be on that upward trajectory, and if he's not going to get a look into the first team, consider his future at the club. He was labelled the next Messi by Poch, which then he realised it wasn't the wisest of things. And I rate Marcus Edwards very highly. I mean, he's a very good player. He's got balance, he's got it all, man. I want to see these young players become the players they can be, or what they're earmarked to be. But in short, people, all 3 of these players have they're all at different stages in their career. They all have different things to consider within their career. If I'm Carter Cameron-Vickers, I'm confident I can have a future at Spurs, but I probably want to play games, so I'll probably go out on loan due to the number of players at the club. If I'm Onomah, obviously I want to break in at Spurs, and I believe I've got the quality, but I do need to consider the age I'm at and where I'm at in my career and where I need to be. And do I want to be on this thing where I'm always going out on loan? I do need to see where Pochettino sees me as a footballer, rates me as a footballer at this stage in my career past potential. Probably the one I'm looking at that probably needs to consider his future the most. Marcus Edwards, I do believe there's still time, but and again, I'm not going to speak about attitude and things like that, but these things are being said by people that are connected with Spurs. So does Pochettino not fancy him? Does he not fancy his work ethic? So if I'm Edwards, I'm trying to get some of these negative connotations down. I'm trying to show that I have the talent, whether Spurs want to give me the chance or somewhere else. If I'm Edwards, it needs to be a case where you need to bang on the door to a point where you can't be ignored anymore, sort of thing, if you get what I'm saying. So yeah, all three have the potential to have good careers, in my opinion, whether it's at Spurs or elsewhere. But I thought I'd talk about Spurs for a while. Well, a couple of young players that happen to play for the scum down the lane. Spurs fans allow me. But yeah, guys, deluded. Get in the comments, subscribe, and do the rest. I'm out, man. Good luck to these young players in pre-season. I'm out. Oh yeah, and Edwards scored 2 against Enfield Town while the Spurs lads are in America. So I'm not too sure as to why he didn't go with the Spurs lads on tour, because there's a lot of young players and it is a depleted Spurs side because of the international commitments a lot of their players have been involved in. So yeah, we'll see. Or maybe he's going on loan. He's going on loan. That's why he hasn't gone on tour. I don't know. But yeah, guys, deluded. Get in the comments, subscribe, and do the rest. I'm out.